216, finish the equation. What we're going to do today is we're going to take our knowledge of balancing equations and we're going to add that to our knowledge of writing formulas, and we're going to add that to our knowledge of knowing what type of reaction it is, and put those three things all together into finishing the equation. So let's just get started on this. Let's move me out of the way a little bit so we can look at problem number 1. Okay, here we go. So if you look at this equation, this is half of an equation. It says HCl, and the H is plus and the Cl is minus, and that's plus NaOH in parentheses. That means that's a polyatomic ion. So what do we have here? We have a couple and a couple. And what does a couple and a couple do when you have a chemical reaction and they're put together? Double replacement reaction. They switch partners. And then when we talked about this, we always said that the boy had to dance with the girl, and the girl has to dance with the other boy. They have to switch partners, and what we're talking about are the positives and the negatives. So a positive has to go with the negative has to go with the positive. Let's take a look. H is positive. It's going to hook up with the opposite negative, so it's going to hook up with the OH on that side. And let's switch colors. The Na is positive, and it's going to hook up with the Cl. They're going to switch partners. Now, when we write these, it doesn't matter which formula you write first, but when you write a formula, you always have to start it off with the positive. So let's get a pencil out here. Let's try to go gray. That's a nice, pretty color. And let's start with the H. So H is plus, right? And now it's going to go with OH, which is minus. All right. Now, remember we talked about formulas. When you're writing a formula, the formula is based on the charges. You just have to crisscross those numbers. And so there's a 1 that goes here and a 1 that goes here. Now, in real life, those 1s are optional. We don't have to write the 1s down. I'm going to write the 1s down today because, it's our first time. All right. That's our first formula. Plus Na. I'm starting with the Na because it's the positive. Goes together with the Cl. And the Cl is minus. All right. Again, 1, crisscross, 1 and 1. Mine didn't show up on the big screen. Let's see what's happening here. I hope I'm not frozen. Ah, they are. Okay, so 1 and 1. All right. Now, we have to balance. Now, does this need balance right now? Is there anything that's a different number? It looks like everything's 1 to me, right? There's 1 H on both sides. There's 1 Cl on both sides. There's 1 Na on both sides. And there's 1 OH on both sides. So we can put 1s in for all this. And again, these 1s are optional. You don't have to write them down. Or you can leave them as it is. Again, I'm lagging here. I'm at home. And I believe I'm running off a hotspot off my phone. So, how it is out in the country. We don't always have Wi-Fi. And there's our first one. We're done. Okay. Now, I'm going to leave the next one to you. So we have Ag, and its opposite is Cl. We have Na, and the other negative, the switch partner, is going to be NO3. So you're going to cross those out and do the same thing I just did in that last problem. All right. You can pause this for a second, and then you can do that. Then you have to balance. And once you get it balanced, it's all 1s and 1s, so it should balance out really easy. I'm moving to the next one. Okay, this next problem that we see, this is a synthesis. Okay, this is 2 things joining together to form 1. So synthesis means comes together. How do I know that? Because I have a positive and I have a negative. A positive plus a negative. So it's only going to form one thing. It's going to form Mg, which is plus 2, and O, which is minus 2. Now, notice I didn't add any little numbers down behind that oxygen. I didn't take this number over here. I didn't take that across because that number comes from the charges. It doesn't come from anything else. So when you get it to the other side, you look and you see, okay, I have Mg plus 2. I have Mg minus 2. Now, I know what you're thinking. Oh, crisscross. I got to put a 2 and 2, but don't write this yet. I put a 2 and 2, right? But what happens when we have the same number? We reduce, right? So it's going to reduce down to a 1 and 1. So I hope you didn't write the 2 and 2 on there. We're going to reduce that to 1 and 1, or again, you can leave it blank. If it's the same charge, it reduces to 1 and 1. Okay, going to balance. Now, the formula is correct. Once the formulas are correct, then we switch to balance mode. Balance mode are the big numbers that go in front. So let's start off with this 2 here. There's 2 oxygens on that side, and there's only one. And there's only one over here on this side, right? So what do? We can only add a big number to make it the same amount. So I put a big 2 in front. That gives me 2 oxygens. Check the partner, because as soon as you changed one thing in the formula, you've changed both. So now we have 2 oxygens, but we also have 2 Mgs. So we have to go back and put another 2 over here and fix the Mgs on both sides. Now when we're done, we can pop a 1 in here. And what do we have? 2 Mgs, 2 Mgs. 2 O's, 2 O's. And everything's balanced. Okay, now that's what you're going to do in this next one, okay? It's the same thing. This is also a synthesis, so this one will be just like the previous problem. All right, try it out. Pause me if you have to. Do that problem, and then we'll move on to the next. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to skip this problem right here. So this is going to be a skip. You don't have to do that problem. Let's go to these next ones here. Okay. I'm trying to follow a certain pattern. I had something in there that wasn't a repeat. So now what do we have? We have a plus 2 minus 1 plus 1 minus 1. We have 2 couples again. We're going to switch partners. Let me mark them out the way I did before. Plus 2 is going to hook up with this Br over here. The plus 1 of the Ag is going to hook up with this NO3. Okay, now let's see what we can do here. So we have Ag, and I started with Ag this time. I don't know why. It doesn't matter as long as you start off with one of the pluses. So Ag is plus 1, and we have to put that with the NO3. Now, the NO3 is inside parentheses. It's together. It's one thing. We move that across. But we don't take that 2 that's outside the parentheses. We don't take this 2 across. That 2 is only there because of that charge of the zinc, right? There's no plus 2 on this side, right? It doesn't have that same thing. So when we moved it across here this time, we're going to have a negative 1 when we crisscross our numbers, and a 1 there. So it's not a 2, it's a 1 because of the charges. Those things come from charges. They don't just come because you decided to drag it from the other side. Okay, plus Zn, which is plus 2, hooks up with Br, which is minus 1. So what do we have now? Crisscross, 1 behind the zinc, 2 behind the Br. Okay, now get this mess out of there. Now let's see what we have. All the formulas are correct, and once you have all your charges crisscrossed, then you can start using big numbers. So now we're going to use the big numbers. All right, and let's go to a nice, let's go orange here. So find the different numbers. Right, we had 2 NO3s. We can go with that. Right, 2 NO3s on the left. So we need to have 2 NO3s on the right. So we need to put a big number 2 in front. That gives me 2 Ags. Remember, going right to the partner. We have 2 Ags. On the right, we need to have the same amount on the left. So we have to make those AGs on the left equal 2. And there's an invisible 1 there, remember. So 2 times 1 is 2. Now we're to the BRs. We switched the AG and the AG BR. They both change. So now we have 2 BRs on the left. Go back to the other side. Oh my gosh, look. We already have 2. It's fine. All right. When that happens, we're probably done. So we have 1 zinc and 1 zinc. And we can say, yeah, those are done. They're matched. We can just put 1s in there. Okay. So you're going to have to try that. Now, the H is going to hook up with the OH, right? Not that, don't take that 2 across there. That doesn't go. And the Na is going to hook up with the SO4, all right? Now, you might be asking, well, why can you take the 4 over but not the 2? Only when they're in parentheses. That's the only kind of little number you can move from one side to the other. That's the only time, because that's a polyatomic ion. It is SO4. It is sulfate. All right? What this little 2 behind the H means is that we have 2 hydrogen ions, right? We have 2 hydrogen ions. We have 1 sulfate. We have 1 sodium ion. We have 1 hydroxide ion. They're just talking about the number of ions. When we move them to the other side, you're going to use the charges to determine how many hook together in those formulas. So you have H with OH, plus 1, minus 1, crisscross 1 and 1. You have Na with SO4, plus 1 minus 2, crisscross, Na2SO4. All right, I'm going to let you try that one. Okay, our next one's also a synthesis. So this time we have a synthesis. So we have 2 things becoming 1. This is going to make water, right? This is what we did in class that day with the test tubes when they went foop, right? This is the same thing. So what do we have? We have, let me go to a different color there. Let's go gray again. So we have a positive 1, and we have an O. So we have an H and an O. Right? Don't worry about those subscripts. Those subscripts will be fixed on the other side through the charges. So we have H plus goes with O minus 2. All right? No numbers yet. No little numbers. Now, crisscross those charges. 2 and 1. There's our H2O. Let's freeze it up. Oh, there it goes. I have a little lag going on, so if I say something and the screen doesn't seem to do it with me, that's why. Okay, now we are ready to balance since the formulas are all fixed up. Let's see what we have here. Now, we have 2 H's, 2 H's. It looks the same, so nothing to do there. Let's check the O's. 2 O's, 1 O, right? We need to have 2 O's on the right side. Big 2 in front. Now we have 2 times 2, 4 H's and 2 H's. So what times 2 equals 4 for the left side? Right? You have to equal 4. 2 times 2. Right? Now we can put a 1 here for that. Where I start is usually where the 1 is, but the 1s are optional. And if I was really doing it, I wouldn't write the 1s in. But for you guys, I'm writing them in. All right, that was the synthesis. Okay, now this one right here is a double replacement. So we have another double replacement. So there's only been double replacement in synthesis. There was a single replacement in there that I skipped, but I don't want to do that one. I don't want to. It has to do with what kind of problem it is, and so I'm skipping that for right now. I don't think you need to have to do that one. So let's go to this last problem here. All right, I'm going to mark them. Fe is going to hook up with the Cl, right? And the Ag will be with the NO3. Now notice, I didn't highlight that little 3 on the outside of that parentheses because that little 3 should not come along for the ride, right? So we're going to have the FE with the CL. Chris, let me write them over. FE plus 3, CL minus 1. We'll have to crisscross, right? You'll have to crisscross. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to leave that for you. Plus AG is with the NO3. Again, plus 1, minus 1. Well, 1 and 1. Do we need numbers? Not really. Ones and ones. So you need to fix this, right? These are going to be 1 and 1. There's nothing really to fix. But once you get those little numbers crisscrossed, I want you to write the big numbers in, okay? So you're going to probably start with this NO3 on this side and fix it on that side. And then you'll change the AGs, and you'll have to fix the AGs. And then the AG's partner CL, you're going to have to take those, and you're going to have to fix those. All right? And try it out. I'm going to leave it right there. So right now, as homework, if you finish all these, except the one I said skip. I mean, I've done more than half, so it shouldn't be too bad. And we'll try it out and see how it is. It takes a little practice. Some of you guys have skipped your formula section last time we were on a quarantine break, right? And it's coming back to bite you in the butt, right? You have to, if you can, catch up on that stuff. Go back to the formula stuff. Fix that up. It's going to help. This right here today will probably help you do those, right? They're not hard at all. This isn't really hard. It's just 2 steps. It's layered. There's layers, right? The more layers you have, the more complex it gets. You have to go in the layers. You have to do the first thing first, second, and then third. You have to follow the pattern. You have to do it in order. Okay, so that's all I got today. Finish that up. That'll be our first homework of the second quarantine break. Also, for attendance, make sure that you do that little attendance question too, because that is part of it. And I hope you have a great day. And I am out of here.